I have a good time when I come over to New Zealand, so I'm feeling a bit weary actually at the moment, so you might have to help me through this a bit with a few questions, but sorry. Now, what I wanted to start off quickly with at the start was just to put you in the picture of who I am, I suppose. Some of you may know that there is a Mania Angus in New Zealand as well, and I'm actually Frank Wilding's nephew and Tim Wilding's first cousin. We do lots of, we get on well together and swap genetics and swap ideas, and that's about the end of it. But we do bounce off each other quite a lot. So Mania in Australia and Mania in New Zealand have quite a good rapport and connection. This is my family, my parents, my sister, and my wife that is probably the most important genetic tool we have, connections. They, if without the family network that we have around each other, I don't think that we'd be quite the business that we are in Australia now. So we all have roles. We have a family chairman, we have a board meeting, we have a structured company attitude, and we get on with business. This is just a bit of an image of what the countryside looks like. We've had a really good summer, and those cows are being looked after pretty well. It's not always like that, obviously, but Australia, we can have some big springs, and it's very hard to control feed because we have to farm for dry summers and difficult winters, and the spring can never have really the livestock on it that we need to utilise. So Mania Angus has about 1,800 cows. They're stud registered and recipients. We market 700 to 800 bulls a year. It's a Mediterranean climate, about 600 millimetres. So now I want to talk to you about Team Mania, which is what I've been asked to speak about. It's a little bit different to the structures of selling or marketing bulls to the industry than you may be used to. So we still do sell bulls in auctions, and we also sell market bulls through Team Mania, but we don't actually sell them. So it's an alliance of progressive commercial breeders that that came to us basically through the contract that we've written. It's not advertised for people to join at all. It's our clients that buy bulls start to get interested in what it's about, and they start to talk to us about it, and then we sign them up into it if they're suitable and they think that the arrangement might suit them. So the Team Mania members work under a common brand, which is an advantage for them. When they come to sell their steers, we've already got a profile of how those steers may behave for the next part of the industry. It's important that that we can try and create a value proposition right through the whole supply chain. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. So first of all, we sign up members. It's been going since '95. We had 7 members in the first group that came in, and one part of the contract is that they will have to castrate male progeny, so it's a completely commercial cattle rearing business. We sole supplier of the genetics, so the genetics that go in obviously only come from the nucleus Mania herd. The Team Mania members make all their records available, and we then obviously get the records back and use them for breeding decisions in the future. We lease the bulls for $2,500 per annum, and they're fully guaranteed, so we still own them, which means that we have to guarantee them, we have to replace them if they break down, we know why they broke down, we know every problem that the team members had with them, whereas in the traditional auction method, we actually, often clients are too embarrassed or don't actually always tell us exactly why a bull hasn't survived in their herd. So we're actually getting really good bull survival information out of the team. And often a vet is involved because we all pay for the vet to go and diagnose whether it needs to get on a truck or go to the abattoir. So, and because of, we also supply discounted semen. And just to give you a little outcome, what happens in the semen discounting, sorry, what happens is that the bulls that we provide into the team, we collect data on a portion of them are progeny tests, so they get scanned, they get weighed at birth, they get all the records collected that we do in the nucleus herd. And so those commercial steers that are then produced by the sires go through to processing, and we collect the carcass feedback and relate that back to the performance of which sires produce the most profitable outcome. And then those sires then become available for the discounted semen into the team. So they use that semen and the sons of those bulls to further produce more and more offspring that are from the previous generations that had the best value proposition. It also provides the stud with a proving mechanism so that we can use the very highest end, highest 10% of the index that we're chasing to breed the next generation of better sires to go back into the progeny test program. So obviously I thought I'd put a bull photo up because we do have bulls. That verifies that we've actually got bulls in paddocks, so there you go. There's this slide here I wanted to talk about a bit because this is one of the things that I think that the team has overcome. In building a full supply chain value proposition, you need the genetic pressure on each part of the supply chain to be rewarded. In the pig and poultry industry, a dollar spent in carcass quality is rewarded to the whole supply chain, and it's distributed and shared evenly through it. In the beef industry, money spent on marbling or retail beef yield only works for the farmer if he has a very trusting and well-formed relationship with his processor. And this is where the industry breaks down genetically in beef, because if the farmer hasn't got a valuable and trusted relationship with his processor, and he comes to choosing a bull, then why would he choose to put marbling and retail beef yield into his herd if he's going to use up valuable selection pressure that he could otherwise use on growth rate and fertility and cow survival? So we've been fortunate enough in Australia to build some of those relationships, and the team's been able to do that because of our intent. And our intent was to breed and design a breeding program that appreciated the full value chain. And once that intent was realised by the processors, then they came to the party. And we have very informal arrangements. So, to get a processor to actually, I think the ultimate would be that, the processors actually came on side and they had some interest in the genetics, some value, and then therefore would be able to manipulate or have some interest in the whole process themselves. And I think this is the way the world's going to go. I think we're going to see major processors in the world starting to control genetics in beef. And, in the future, there will be very much fewer beef genetics companies. They'll be controlled by ConAgra, by Swifts, and they'll be delivering the genetics to their clients so that they can control the value proposition more. So this is one of our big threats, and with the use of larger databases, genomics, and other tools at our disposal, we need to be aware of these challenges and make sure that we're breeding the very best cattle we can, so that we're always considered as a part of the whole supply chain. So this is a more fragmented segment. So this is when geneticists design indexes, it's very important that the whole value proposition is taken into consideration, because this index here may do a lot of damage to carcass quality because of putting so much selection pressure on just on the cow breeding end. Those traits will have negative correlations to some of the valuable traits that are holding up the Angus or the particular brand or breeding lines reputation of supplying quality animals. So this is, I'm getting towards the end, so I'd like to sort of open up a little bit. I hope I've given you enough of a carrot to ask me lots of questions, but we're living in a very liquid age at the moment, and as Jim Green said, I suppose the next 5 years are going to be very interesting. But the genomics is going to be very disruptive. It is going to completely change the way we do business, and I don't feel right at the moment that our genetics pipelines has structures to cope. It's going to be quite an upheaval. Breed societies are going to have to really question about how they are going to provide services that they have provided in the past to their clients, or to their members, I should say. Sometimes I get confused whether they're clients or members, I must say. But I'd like to end here and open the floor up to some questions.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. Just regards to the previous speaker, I mean, what you've described is basically a progeny trial, and that's how they used to do their bulls, and they're now going away from that because of the slow generation interval. I mean, how do you see this going? You've mentioned genomics and possibly what issues they may cause, but what benefits can the genomics bring to your operation and reducing that generation interval rather than doing progeny trials?
Well, we've already started. I mean, we select the progeny test bulls using genomics. So of the 800 bulls last year, we selected the top 300 and genomically tested them to try and improve the accuracy before we made the decision to choose which ones we were going to progeny test. So it's already moving that way. Our progeny test model is a commercial model that works regardless of whether it progeny tests or not, and that's the way we set it up. It's not a research project. It's a win-win situation between us and the commercial client. So what it does for us, this year we're going to test every bull and genomically, because the team to Mania is actually quite a valuable reference population for genomics as well, because the bull's accuracies come through and help assist with finding the correlations between traits. But it's important for Tamania Angus to collect progeny test information into the future so that we can build really, really strong prediction equations between genomics and the cattle that we're breeding, and that's what we want to continue to do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no.
The progeny test also offers us an opportunity to really be analysed by commercial people rather than us assume that things are going well. So it's an important part of our business.
Yeah, hi Tom. You've touched on a couple of the issues or challenges you see facing the industry. Where do you see your own business and the industry heading over the next short term or short to long term?
Well, what we're going to have to do is get right on the front foot with technology, and I see there's been a bit of talk about wearables. I can see all our cows wearing wearables, so we'll be putting rumen capsules in to keep an eye on their the chemistry in their rumen and possibly the biology in their rumen. We'll be putting wearables around their necks to monitor when they first have their estrus as heifers, how fast they return to estrus after calving, whether they've burped, whether they haven't. Analyse all this data, relate it back to genetics, keep on moving forward. So 10 years is going to, in the next, as Jim Green said, the next 5 years is going to be very interesting. And then relating all that information and letting Dorian wave his magic wand over and turn it into genomics is going to be so exciting for us that I think, you know, I'm looking forward very much to the next 10 years and how we're going to make even more profitable improvement.
Yeah, Tom, have you mentioned the long-fed index that you're using. Do you use any grass-fed indexes for the cow herd at all? And how has your herd evolved if you're using the long-fed index?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our key performance indicator has been long-fed, and which is a very different market to here. But fundamentally, the difference is mature size. And so the correlation between the two indexes is very high anyway, even if you don't consider mature size. But so we've already taken steps because there's a move in Australia in the green belt through the Bass Strait Islands, King Island and Flinders and Tasmania, Gippsland and up the eastern coast. There's 6 or 7 million cattle that are being finished on grass. So we can't ignore that, and so having a line that's of reduced mature size, and that's we're looking at in our EBVs sort of under 90, means that our clients, discerning clients, can come and buy or lease a grass finished bull rather than a long fed, without more technical information. That's the blunt tool that we're using at the moment, and I think that it's pretty safe.
Tom, can I just ask why you and your partners are confining yourself to the one breed, and perhaps talk about branding?
Well, that's a good question. Confining ourselves to one breed at the moment is because of a lack of communication between breeds, and I think that's probably something that I left out of my 10-year forecast, because genomics is going to bang all the breeds together, I believe. The silos of data are going to join up. We're going to get a single EBV coming out for all breeds, and we will then be able just to use any breed that we want and know what effect it's going to have on our population. At the moment, we don't really know the effect that introducing another breed to our nucleus herd will have on the population. We can speculate it generally, but specifically we won't know. But that's going to change. So that'll be something that in the near future will be something that we'll have to consider. And you'll probably notice, or you may have noticed, but the word Angus isn't in Team Mania. So the word Angus is in Mania Angus, but Angus is not in Team Mania. We deliberately didn't put it in. And the second question was about branding. So the branding that we do, we don't get involved in any transaction between our clients and their processor, but we create awareness through the brand of what it means. So it means marbling, it means carcass quality, and that's our marketing side of the business makes sure that that's portrayed, which is an advantage for our clients to then use.
Tom, congratulations on your program. I just wanted to ask you said about some of the bigger industry players taking control of genetics in the future. and you're spending a lot of time on research and putting your program together. How are you going to protect yourself or defend yourself from the process of maybe seizing your genetics over the next few years and displacing you maybe?
We're going to protect ourselves by being one of them. So by being one of them, we need to start to behave like one of them, and that's what the team is doing. I think there'll be small ones as well, of course. I don't think they'll all be ABS. There'll be some small niche ones that are quite clever at providing particular market category jobs or more specific, and we're sort of seeing it already within breeds, but it's just going to get much more intense and much better over time.
Hi Tom, just wondering.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi. Just wondering, massive investment into your breeding program that you're making. Just wondering how you describe the value to your commercial customers and make sure that they understand what they're getting when they buy a bull from Team Mania.
Yeah, that's very difficult, genetics is so complicated and difficult to explain and understand. The extension in Australia is failing us badly, and the extension in New Zealand doesn't seem to be a lot better. There's the value proposition of breeding with EBVs is just absolutely so obvious to me, what it's achieved and where we've come from and where we're going to go with using it. But it is difficult for someone who's perhaps has a methodology which they trust and is holding them where they want to be. But I think they've just got to get out and break the ice and move on, try and use the tools that are servicing me so well and others in the room here obviously as well. And so to sell the actual value of the is about word of mouth. It's about people just putting their toe in and slowly seeing the effect that it has. Does that answer your question?